Good evening. This is ENCA Moneyline, your money guide. My name is Sikim Gabadeli. Coming up on the show tonight. 2095 may be the first year that the world reaches complete gender equality, according to the World Economic Forum. Job losses may be on the rise in the near future, with Solidarity saying employee confidence is still below the 50-point break-even level. And our Tuesday entrepreneurship segment takes a look at the world of fitness and a young man who's taken the muscle world by storm. Global gender equality remains a pipe dream. A World Economic Forum survey predicts that in 2095, the world will possibly achieve complete parity between the sexes. The Global Gender Gap Index tracks the distribution of resources between women and men, irrespective of their income levels. The most gender equal societies in the world remain the Nordic countries, with Iceland, Finland, Norway and Sweden leading the pack. Rwanda is at number 7, with South Africa the highest placed BRICS nation at number 18. The United States and United Kingdom are at 20 and 26 respectively. More South Africans may face retrenchment, and there's little chance of higher than usual salary increases. The latest Solidarity ETM Labour Market Index showed a slight improvement in the third quarter. The index now stands at 41.7 points. That's a 2-point improvement from the second quarter. The LMI remains below the break-even level between rising and falling wage and job security of 50 points. According to the index, employee confidence recovered slightly. The index reflects the end of the labour unrest that happened in the first half of the year. The LMI has remained below 50 since. Stats SA will release its labour force survey for the third quarter later in the week. So for more on the Labour Index, I'm joined now in studio by Pete Leroux, who's a senior researcher at Solidarity. Pete, thanks so much for your time this evening.
Happy to be here.
How was this index put together?
We compiled the index with 3 sub-measures, and we are happy to have the expert team of ETM Analytics on our side. So we look at broad macro aggregates of labour affordability. We break down GDP and work on those numbers, and we include some business cycle metrics, the up and down swings. And then what really gives the index an edge is when we include the third component, which is Solidarity's survey, which we do among our 140,000 members every quarter. Okay. And we've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and this gives us an indication. We ask the question, how confident are you in your job, and how confident compared to 3 months ago, an improvement or a decrease, and then and we compile that, and we make an index from those numbers.
Okay, so let's start with confidence, because that's possibly the only good news we've gotten here, and I like good news. There's been an improvement in the actual confidence levels of employees, but what's fueling that? Is it just the end of the strike and a little bit of more stability?
No, it's probably more than just the strike. And when we speak of this strike, we probably think of the protracted striking in the mining industry earlier this year, but there were some other strikes as well. You had the NUMSA manufacturing sector. You also had in the second quarter, so this is a third quarter index, and it follows on the second quarter of this year. And in the second quarter, you also had the election. And during the election, you can't really cut a clean break between the political sphere and the economics and the business and the employee sector. So we think that probably also adds to the improvement in the index. So the improvement in employee confidence and job security, that is substantial, but it's still all below that 50-point threshold.
Which is the one that's very important, because that tells us that we are at least at some sort of parity?
Yeah, so ideally we construct this index to move between 0 and 100, and 50 is the break-even level. And we've only seen breaches of that on the upper side of that 50 level going back to 2011 for about a year there. There was a brief upswing, and before that, only before 2008. Before 2008, everything was good and well, but we remember those retrenchments 2007-8 when the crisis hit, and we haven't really recovered from that.
Let's talk about the sub-index that looks at labour affordability, and I suppose that gives you a sense of hiring and retrenchment practices.
Well, it's those are macro numbers that we use from publicly available data that roughly speaking, it says it's the share of company company revenue that goes to paying employees to work for them. Yeah. And if that increases, that says, well, we'll have less scope for higher than usual salary increases. But if that's relatively low, then as unions, we know maybe we can bargain a little better. So we use this index to inform us in our bargaining processes.
Okay, so in terms then of retrenchments, I mean, obviously this is a major concern. We're talking about really high levels of unemployment. We just have not managed to crack the unemployment problem in this country. And unfortunately, since the recession, we've seen more and more job losses. What are you seeing on that front?
Well, we've seen a mixed picture since 2007-8. We've seen increases and a sort of recovery from the steep retrenchment levels we've seen around then. But it is to some extent, it's an artificial recovery. Mm-hmm. And I say that because many of those jobs created are in the government sector. And those are not the kind of jobs you want in a vibrant economy. You want it in the private sector. So that's why I said the recovery that there has been is somewhat artificial. And so what the index also tells us, and we see this in the telecommunications sector at the moment, you see retrenchments. And this is a way we want to inform South African workers, get your union membership back up to date.
Because that's going to be a concern. A lot of them are going to have to go through that process and make sure that they are, to a certain extent, protected. At 41.7, I mean, that's quite far from that break-even level. What trend do you expect we're going to see in the fourth quarter?
Oh, well, there are many things that can influence this. Some political decisions can really make this index go up. If you have a more stable political environment with secure property rights, maybe as Mr. Mark Shuttleworth succeeded in doing a little bit now, you can get capital controls relaxed and those sort of things. You get easier investment in South Africa, and that automatically improves the employability, the absorption, if you wish, of the economy. So if those sort of decisions come through, those sort of business-friendly, which are also worker-friendly decisions, then I have some hope for this index. We're also exposed to international upswings and downswings, and the best you can...
Not good at the moment.
Right. The best you can do is you're not completely isolated. You can be a member of a union and you can upskill and you can do the best you can. It's not like this is absolute doom, but it does sound a warning, a word of caution.
All right, we'll leave it there. Pete Leroux is a senior researcher at Solidarity. Now, the South African government is trying to introduce more of the country's manufactured goods as well as agricultural products to China. Various trade and investment expos are currently being hosted in China to promote South African products. The country's top 10 value-added products and investment projects are currently being promoted in Chinese cities. John Bailey reports.
South Africa's top export brands are on display in China. Officials are trying to change the trade profile between the two countries. South Africa mainly exports mining products, heavy chemicals and iron and steel to China to the tune of $5 billion a year, while South African imports from China are focused on clothing, machinery, televisions, communications equipment, furniture and footwear. It's hoped these expos will increase the exposure of South African finished products.
Here we are trying to get infant formula into China. We are also at the same time trying to get our citrus fruit into China as well. But there South Africa needs to observe certain protocols that are prescribed by the government of China, and vice versa. We would do the same for fruit that would be, or any product that's coming into South Africa.
Exhibitors are also trying to attract Chinese investors.
China is technologically savvy, and the companies here are funded by the government. So I think it would be easier to get funding from the companies because they've got a backup from their government and they are looking at opportunities into going into Africa, doing business in Africa.
Political relations between South Africa and China have strengthened in recent years. It's hoped trade and economic relations will follow suit.
Skills transfer is a critical issue, and obviously we need to, with this potential partnerships, we can obviously set up some manufacturing concerns and obviously, employ youth that is in our country and develop them in other fields as well.
Some of the companies likely to see an increase in trade and investment with China are those in the agro-processing, manufacturing products, and minerals and beneficiation. John Bailey, Hong Kong.
After the break, Yusuf Omar takes a look at employee wellness. You're watching ENCA Moneyline. This is your Money Guide. Stay with us.